Hey guys, it's me, Dewey. Thanks for watching my YouTube channel, and hope you guys have been enjoying the flying vlogs and me flying the different aircraft and different things like that. Well, today we're going to cover my new standard. This is a D-25 new standard, built in 1930. Actually, it was June 26, 1930 when it was certified. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the airplane, the history of it. I'll try to keep it short and sweet, but there's so much history with 87, 88 years of history here. It's hard to just run through it real quick. So a new standard was really, they were designed by Ivan Gates and Charles Day. It's the only 4-passenger certified biplane. That's why I'm able to take 4 people up in it. There's only 8 of these flying in the United States and actually in the world right now. Less than 80 of them were built. And Ivan Gates, which owned the Gates Flying Circus, had this built so he could fly more people in a day. Charles Day helped design it. It's all wood wings, covered in fabric. You know, back then they used wool linen or cotton. This is synconite, like polyester, synthetic fabric. The fuselage is aluminum L-track. It's very light, riveted together or bolted together fuselage, and then covered in fabric. The airplane weighs just over 2,000 pounds. The gross weight is 3,400 pounds. So this is the 220 horse Continental engine. I have a Hamilton standard propeller. It's ground adjustable. It's set at a very flat pitch to be able to haul the weight, and with the flat pitch, it allows the RPM on the engine to come up to the normal RPM, and I'm able to carry 3 to 4 passengers at a time. You guys can see here, this is a cylinder. There's 7 cylinders on this engine. These are valves, exhaust valve and intake valve. This is the air box. Goes in, and then the carburetor is actually up here. And that's the carburetor for this engine. This engine is very popular because it was on the Stearman biplanes from World War II. I believe I'm the only Continental powered standard that's flying today. All the other ones have Wright J6s, which are 235 horse and 760 cubic inches. But you know, I have a 1,550 foot grass runway, and this airplane does very well with this power plant. I just make sure that I don't fly the aircraft into short fields with trees and power lines and things like that. So it takes a little bit of planning. On a hot and humid day, I'd say about 85 degrees, I start noticing the power on this engine starting to decrease. Other than that, like today, we're in October, it breathes very well and I get all the power out of it. In 1936, July issue of the National Geographic magazine, this aircraft is actually in that magazine. I have the original copy that we got off of eBay thanks to Andrew King, and it shows this aircraft doing an air rescue in the River of No Return. I believe it's in Idaho or Montana. But a guy named Richard Johnson went out, and one of the explorers got sick, and they actually loaded him up, and Richard actually flew the guy back to have some medical treatment. Most of my rides, probably 80 to 90% of my rides, are barnstorming rides. They're about 15 minutes long total. And then I also offer rides here in Ohio for 30 minutes. It's called my aviation tour. All right, I just climbed in the cockpit here. This cockpit's very roomy and comfortable for my 5'7" statue. But there's other taller people. Rob Locke's like 6'7", and he flies his new standard. He's been flying it for 15 years or so. If you can look inside here, it has 4 pedals. A lot of people are kind of confused what's going on. So the outer pedals is the rudder, okay? The rudder will go back and forth, and then the inner pedals, this is the brakes. The brakes and the rudder. The hardest part of this new standard is trying to figure out how much you need to move your foot over from the rudder pedals to get on the brakes. Without brakes with this aircraft, you're sure to ground loop. At very low speeds, the rudder is really non-existent. It does not work at all. So it has red line wheels and brakes on this aircraft, which you know, allows you to maneuver very well and control the aircraft on the runway. But the hardest part for me was trying to figure out how much I needed to move my feet over to the brakes and how much brakes I needed to apply during my slowdown on asphalt runways. On grass, it's not nearly as bad. We can come up here. We got a Magneto. Here's our mags here, both left, right, and off. We have a compass here, airspeed indicator, altimeter, amps. I do have a radio and a transponder on this aircraft. Oil pressure, or sorry, temperature, tachometer, and then oil pressure over here. Circuit breaker panel, look at it. All 4 of them. Down here is our throttle quadrant. So we have our throttle here, and we have our mixture, and down below is carburetor heat. Over on the right hand side of the cockpit, we have a tail wheel lock. It's unlocked here. When I get ready to take off, I always push this forward. That allows a pin to go down into the fuselage and or into the tail wheel assembly and lock the tail wheel straight, and then go from there. Normal control stick, ailerons right and left, and then we have our elevator. You guys remember I was moving the stab earlier? Well, look down here in the left hand side of the fuselage, or the cockpit here, if you can see that. Looks like a big parking brake. That's down. It's down. This is up. Works really well. Very positive feel, and lasts a long time. I also have an ELT in the cockpit here, and I have my headsets and things like that. Here's our switches. You know, we can master switch. We got our generator, alternator, and then starter switch and the radios. Pretty simple cockpit. The instrument panel is all mahogany, plywood. This is the fuel shutoff valve. Right now it's on. I pretty much keep it on until maybe winter time when I'm not flying the aircraft as often. But it's real simple. That's off. That's on. This is also the fuel strainer. This is the lowest point of the fuel system right here. I have to have a little cup, go down here and check the fuel. But fuel comes from the top wing. It's all gravity fed. Comes from the top wing. I have 46 gallons of fuel that's carried on the aircraft. Comes down to the back cockpit here and then works its way forward to the engine. All right, you guys notice both of my biplanes have the ace cards on the side of it. This is in a remembrance of the flying aces from the 1920s and 30s. They were a barnstorming circus that traveled around, Jimmy and Jesse Woods. If you guys want to catch a good book, look up On the Wing, and it talks about the flying aces and the significance of the ace cards and their paint scheme. So this is really a big tribute to them, okay, and a legacy. I want to keep that legacy alive, and that's what barnstorming is all about. So every time you guys see this, think of the flying aces, think of good folk and old-time biplane rides. You guys can see here, one thing good about this barnstorming airplane, it has big landing gear. These big struts are good for landing on grass fields, hay fields, corn fields, and things like that. You can catch a video where I landed out in a cornfield last year, but you can land and it's as smooth as a whistle. I tell everyone I land like a butterfly with sore feet, because you can almost not land bad with this airplane, except on a crosswind on asphalt you could maybe land bad. But you can see here, very big struts, big gear. And come on this other side over here. Tui wants to talk instead of me. No, Tui. So you guys, what makes this aircraft unique also on barnstorming aircraft, if you come around here, it has built-in steps on the struts. We don't have ladders, things like that when we're out barnstorming, and we're trying to keep efficiency going. So one thing I can do when I want to refuel the aircraft, just get up here and you can just climb right up on the aircraft. Get up here, you can check your fuel. And that's how you do it. When you get down, same thing. And he wants to talk now. So, also every barnstormer has to have a dog, I guess. So, meet Tui. Go ahead, Tui. Talk to him. He doesn't want to talk now. Okay.